I don't know about you, but I'm actually terrified of horses. Growing up, I avoided them. They always look like they want to bite you. But my sister was a rider and used to compete when she was young. And last week in Vegas, she competed in the Sterling and Marshall National Quarter Horse Show, don't you know, riding a friend's horse named Sandy. And Sandy, the horse, has competed in many shows over the years, whereas this is my sister's return to riding in quarter horse shows after many, many decades. So my sister Quinn, her idea was to let Sandy, the horse, take the lead. And this is how she explained it. She said, this is Quinn. I was sort of working with the feeling that if I just showed her that I put my confidence in her, that she would take care of us. I'd been working under this misconception for a good month or so with this horse, and it caused her to have to look and size up and evaluate absolutely everything, hyper vigilantly thinking that every pot of fake marigolds was a monster trying to kill us. And it was so much responsibility for her that we just couldn't get anything done. She was so sweet and so tired, and there was no room for any kind of athletic performance. And it was more like, Quinn said, I had made her this constant tour guide in a place that she'd never been before. Finally, Quinn said, my coach intervened and told me to wrap my legs gently around her, take a firm hold of the reins, and let her face relax into my hands. It was literally like somebody threw a switch. From that moment on, she would have marched right over the top of a fake pot of marigolds if I had told her to, because she did not have to be in charge anymore. Every time I felt her skin start to twitch and tighten up because she heard some air conditioner turn on or a horse gallop by or somebody start to wave a jacket around, all I had to do was just feel myself wrapping around her like a comforting hug and let her lean into my hands, and all of her energy went into my hands, and she was just ready to go. She was so calm and happy and relieved that she was not having to navigate this entire underground, it's an indoor arena, underground labyrinth of grandstands and arenas and obstacles and noises and people there in Vegas. She did not have to give any of it a thought. She just had to listen to what her next command was, and we did it together. So together wasn't me following behind her or me dragging her. It was really me being in charge of our safety and carrying us through. Once I told her with my body and my spirit, I got this, she could not have been happier to comply. I know you're all on metaphor alert right now. Sandy the horse gave up the burden of carrying the full weight of worry on her own. And each of us carries a tremendous weight of our own personal struggles, whatever they are. Anger and fear about this world that we're living in right now, and wishing that we could control events. The ache of disappointment, the anxiety of uncertainty, for many, addictions. And like an ox pulling a plow, we feel compelled to drag this pain, this trouble, this challenge around all alone. And when I meet people, sometimes I can actually see radiating from them the pain and strain of this lonely effort. Of course, you have pain. I have pain. Some call it inner poverty, feeling poor inside and yearning to be fed, feeling lost, feeling under stress and pressure. And for many, the burdens are heavy. But I don't know why we so often think that we have to handle it all alone, carry the weight alone. And not only carry the weight, but keep it secret sometimes too. A lot of us out there white knuckle our way through pain. I have a friend who approached a cancer diagnosis and treatment in just that way, secretively. She did not tell a soul. She suffered in silence through every moment of her treatment, as if getting through that suffering secretly was an achievement. And I don't blame her, because the culture encourages that kind of rugged individualism, even though it's so hard. And today, Jesus is teaching us the exact opposite. He's inviting us to share all of our burdens with him. And in Matthew's gospel that you just heard Reverend Julia read, this support from God is exactly what Jesus promises when he says the famous words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." And there's more. Jesus adds, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." A yoke and a burden that are light? What can this mean? It means, I think, that Jesus is offering for us, Jesus and each of us, to pull together with Jesus in the lead role, and this makes for lighter work because we are no longer in charge. Jesus is guiding us. We follow. It's work, yes, but the pressure and the fear and the isolation disappear. And it sounds like a contradiction, yoke, easy, burden, light, but another translation of the word easy here is loving kindness. So imagine my yoke is loving kindness. What would it be like to be harnessed, yoked continually to a plow of loving kindness, to move through the world that way? Remarkable. Now, admittedly, when you think back to the gospel passage that you just heard read, all this talk about light burdens and loving kindness from Jesus come at the very end after many verses where Jesus is scolding people for not listening to him, not following his teaching. First, he's complaining that people are mocking John the Baptist for being too austere, and then mocking Jesus himself for being too relaxed, hanging around with tax collectors and sinners. And then he goes on to scold whole cities, Bethsaida, Capernaum. He's so frustrated with the countless ways that we humans try to do it all on our own, so often to the detriment of our own lives as individuals and as communities. How beautiful to end then with this invitation to each of us to choose another way, his way. And I love how he says, "I am gentle and humble." Another way of saying, lean on me, learn from me. A dear friend of mine has recently started attending AA meetings, and I love hearing the wonderment and excitement in their voices. They describe especially the first 3 steps in the 12-step program, all 3 involving the setting down of the burdens of struggle and pain through surrender instead. Step 1, and many of you know this very well. Step 1 is called admitting powerlessness, and in AA they say we admit that we are powerless to alcohol in this case, but fill in the blank, all of us, for whatever it is in our lives. We admit that we are powerless and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, finding hope in something greater. This is coming to believe that a higher power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity, to wholeness. And step 3, the most amazing one, letting go of control. This one means making a decision to turn our will over to the care of God, however we understand God. My friend is so excited to lay their burdens down. What a relief. Why? Because, back to my sister again, and the learning she experienced at the quarter horse show in Vegas last week. She said, it really was me being in charge of our safety and Sandy the horse carrying us through. Once I told her with my body and in my spirit, I got this, she could not have been happier to comply. In a way, we're just horses. This is a passage from an amazing Carmelite nun, Saint Edith Stein. She died at Auschwitz, and she said the most incredible thing about surrender. She said, by doing what God demands of us with total surrender of our innermost being, we cause the divine life to become our own inner life. That's what's happening in the surrender. If we surrender the yoke of our own pain, trusting God instead, we experience nothing less than a radical kind of freedom and joy to live the divine life, a beautiful lightness of being, because we are not in charge, not even for a minute. Amen.